Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to ArchiHacks, and today we have another very exciting portfolio review. This portfolio was used to apply to famous companies like Big, OMA, Foster & Partners, Shigeru Ban, and Toyo Ito. So if you guys are curious, let's take a look. Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to ArchiHacks, and today we have another very exciting portfolio review. This portfolio is submitted by Doyup Lee from Korea. Shout out goes to all Koreans watching this video. This is a really impressive portfolio, as you can see on the screen. I'll take you step by step, page by page, talking about things that are working really well and things that could potentially use some improvement. This portfolio has amazing renderings, clear diagrams, so that we can best tell the story and make the case to get your job or internship or get into a school that you want to get into. So I think there's a lot to learn and a lot to take away from this. Let's be inspired by Doyup Lee's work and get started. So first things first, the cover page is looking amazing, very minimalistic, and it's the kind of stuff that I really enjoy. Year is represented here as 16 to 22, which was a little bit confusing to me at first. So I would advise changing this to potentially something like 2016 to 2022, just to be clear. There is a bottom right corner, it appears to be like a back cover page formatting. When you're submitting your PDF to be printed, maybe this is a correct format to do it. But in this day and age, we send a lot of portfolio in a PDF format, so there is really no need to show this over here. Probably center all the elements here and should be good to go. Let's move on to the next page. Table of contents is looking pretty good as well. There's like a quick introduction to himself and the projects that he's personally connected to, breaking up this huge paragraph into smaller paragraphs so that it's a little bit easier to read and it's easier to make connections with the individual sections that are presented on the right side over here. So you could potentially even draw lines. It's not mandatory. One thing I noticed throughout the portfolio is that there is a lot of hyphenation, a really good way to establish structure on your page. However, as you can see, these texts, these words are getting broken into two parts like this. And sometimes this happens a little bit too frequently. And in cases like this, there are just two letters before you move on to the next one. So if you're using a software like InDesign, you should probably be able to customize this behavior so that they only break the word at a certain length or not break them at all. Moving on to the first project, the rendering is looking beautiful, very cinematic and moody. This already sets a very good tone for this project. There's a lot of natural elements coming in. This is some kind of brewery and there's a lot of public traffic coming in and out. So there's going to be a very interesting interplay between the private and public spaces. I noticed that the people are a little bit out of scale, especially the ones at the top versus the ones at the bottom. If I just like translate these guys up here, they will probably be up here as well. They should be a lot smaller. But overall, this sets a very good tone to start with. And this project is very impressive. This is kind of a tourist facility situated in abandoned quarry turned into a brewery. There's very interesting interplay between private and public functions. Public rehabilitation, which needs to provide open space for the general public. And there is actually practical purpose that this area has to serve, which is producing the beverages. The solution to this is by creating soft structure around the quarry to create this intermingled structure where people can inhabit the production facility. Potentially be interesting for this type of diagram is to color code, maybe show the people in green, right? And then if the production facility, something that is separated from the public, then I would color these guys red, for example. Let's say in red, which is private function, I will draw a bunch of boxes. I will take another color like green to show that the public program is invading and intermingling with all these structures and thus creating this interesting intersection between the private and public and enriching both sides of the story to just make this understanding a little bit more intuitive, especially for application process where the committee only has like a 2 seconds to look at this page. That being said, now you'll be super impressed by all the drawings that he's making. Like this aerial axonometric diagram, there are all these details with all the surrounding buildings, topography, vegetation, and the building itself looks perfect. There's a call out to a number. The number is also corresponding to something else. When you have a little call out, you would usually put the actual text right next to the call out. This space that he created at the top of the cliff is looking very amazing. I would love to hang out in this space over here. As you can see, he is very well versed in rendering and diagramming. These structures are actually functional pieces of equipment that are producing drinks. This is actually becoming a very interesting space to hang out. And I want to kind of see that in the diagram as well. Let's say, for example, rice steaming and fermentation is like the beginning of the process. So maybe this is closely associated with like a visitor center or entrance. And maturation can be done in like a very dark, moody, and stable space. So this can be like coupled with like an amphitheater or like presentation space. So I would have loved to see this coupling between the main production space as well as the visitor's public space. I would love to see that. I can see that applicant is very well versed in his tool and his skills. I should also give him extra points for the rigor. I can see that there are scale bar and north arrow for every single drawing, and that was really impressive. One hiccup here though is that I see that the north arrow changes direction between these two pages, so that's something to keep an eye out for. But honestly, a very nitpicky comment. There are some weird overlapping going on with the road and the trees, and despite these two drawings being a different plane, the tree seems to have similar line weights, so I would have faded one of them out if it was closer to ground. This is a part where Legends starts to become a little bit confusing. As you can see, the numbers are starting to overlap with the actual drawing elements. The legends are also intersecting with drawing. So in this case, you have to consider reduce the overlapping. One way could be putting white background behind the legends, or you could also create a callout and then put your text over here. I'm not sure if this is the intent of the designer, but I would love to see like circulation of different traffic that are coming in here. I'm guessing that this road over here is provisioned a lot of production facility, and the roads that are at the top and from the side over here are for the public. And it would have been good to show that they are somehow separated in a very clever way. Overall, that was a really fun project, and gotta take my hats off for the designer. Our next project is the Crescent. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of fun things going on over here. There are these like pixelated blocks, sort of like buildings are disintegrating into these like green terraces. Now, as you can see, one thing that works really well here, I think again, is color coding. I guess I'm just a big fan of color coding, but it becomes really clear how he is disintegrating these enclosed spaces with public. This appears to be a theme throughout his portfolio. And yeah, the diagrams are done really well, just like the previous project. And his renderings and plans are looking amazing. One thing I did notice is that I'm not sure if this is a convention in Korea, but I always find that ground level are on the right and upper levels are presented on the left. I would normally expect the lower levels to start on the left, so that was one thing. And the other thing is that this is a typical level at 10th floor, so that is pretty high, but I would have loved to see how this floor interacts with the previous floors. Just assuming from like looking at how this complex the structure is, there must be some kind of structures that are down here that are closer to this level than from the ground. And I want to see this like different line weights showing different layers of structures that are connected to this. It's a loss of potential for this project. I almost feel like this project ends a little bit abruptly. I'm guessing that the author had a bit of a page limit to deal with, but I would have loved to see what these interstitial spaces look like. Probably lends for very cool spaces. Next one is Breathing Posca. Another very well executed project. It starts off with a site analysis and concept. It's a combination of urban greenery and purifier happening at the same time. Right now it shows that the water is collected at the top, and then that appears to be, and then they flow into the lake over here. This one goes a little bit more in depth into the actual construction and looking at the more practical aspects. Now, one thing that really impressed me is the renderings that are used in this project. These ivies that are climbing the wall look hyper realistic. The author is not only imaginative, but also well grounded in reality as well when it's necessary. And these detailed sections look pretty reasonable as well. Even though this is not like 100% exactly how you would construct things. For example, the structure is missing here. Like this is just pure insulation that are happening here. Certain separation between the vapor and different membranes are not indicated correctly. However, this shows that the author is well adept at creating this kind of drawing. And honestly, nobody starts off, like comes out of architecture school, actually understanding how to create wall sections. So this goes to show that you are ready to learn, and with the assistance of someone who's a little bit more experienced, you'll be able to get started right away. And this is really all you have to show in your portfolio. Don't try to be perfect, but show that you have the skills to learn, and then this is your point of departure. And I think this portfolio displays that very well. For example, I was really impressed by this rendering as well. Not only is it a very realistic image, but also there are these detail lines to show the signs of timber construction, little holes for bolts and little slits for different kinds of metal plates to go into. Really impressive for someone who's just finishing up school, or maybe not even. And I don't even know how he has this much experience, because I checked that he doesn't have a lot of internship experience yet. He is a fast learner, I guess. And overall, like this project is still a very fun place to hang out with. Like these spaces look very creative and friendly. And I would have a similar comment about this page. I'm not sure why the ground level is on the right side, and I would have loved to see a little bit more context around the building at this level. The design itself is still very ambitious, and he is very good at executing that. And this diagram is very clear, indicating which part of the buildings are getting demolished and what his core concept about this ascending public space is. Not only does he have this really impressive axonometric diagram, I also love the way he color codes walls that are constructed versus the ones that are demolished. His renderings are so good as well. Interesting interaction between the old elements over here with, you can see these brick elements with like little molds and everything, with this very hyper modern wooden slats and metal sidings wrapping around these elements encased in this glass cage. Very stylish, very modern, really well executed. And interestingly, the resume is at the end. I would have loved to see this slightly up front. He's currently at Korea University and he started in 2016, so it hasn't even been that many years since he started, but he's at a very high level already. One thing I would have added here is to add present here just to show that you have not graduated yet. I also wanted to mention that Dynamo could probably be included in the 3D modeling side over here, and then one-click LCA maybe it could be added to Office tools. Even though it's not Microsoft Office Suite, it's an Office tool, so that's that. What do you guys think about this portfolio? Did you enjoy it as much as I did? I definitely learned quite a few things from this one, and I was really glad that this person reached out and then gave me a chance to review his portfolio. If you guys found this interesting, and if you also want to get a review like this one, I don't normally make videos for every portfolio I get, but if you want to get a written feedback, you can submit it through the form in the description and for a chance to be featured as well. Their shameless plug is that I've been collaborating with Archive to create this online digital portfolio. If you're interested in creating a quick online digital portfolio, I humbly recommend using Archive because it's free to use and it's entirely designed exactly for architects. So give that a shot. It doesn't cost you anything to get started. And yeah, I hope you guys will find that helpful as well. That being said, thank you so much for sticking all the way to the end, and I'll see you guys next time.